Okay, now that we know our way around the platform, we are going to go into Creation Zone. And once I'm in here, it looks like this. Now, there are lots of tools in here, so don't be afraid to scroll down and find out what kinds of tools there are and be able to play. Let's start with Test Designer, because often you need tests or quizzes or even just generating oral questions for you to give to your students or your younger students that are all curriculum aligned. So let's do that. Let's click in there. Okay, perfect. Now here we go. In here, you will see the first thing is available curriculum or custom curricula. So when you click in here, you'll see that we have all the Canadian curriculum as well as the United States Common Core. Okay, but if that is not your curriculum that you want to use, then you are free to go and actually add in your custom curricula. So you can go here and create a custom curricula. This goes across the site with you. I'm going to be doing another video on how to create custom curricula, but for now, just know that that option is available. Okay, let's look at our curriculum. Then I'm going to choose Alberta and grade 4. And then I choose my subject. And we have all of, if you are teaching in a Catholic school, we have all of your religious studies Catholic curricula in there too. And then all of these available studies that are according to the Alberta curriculum. And this is all new curriculum. And you can see here for social studies, for example, we have the brand new optional implementation until it's going to actually be mandated. We have it in here as that, and then we have the old curriculum too. So you can see that, and I'm going to just choose science though. Then if you want to choose another secondary subject, this is nice because it lets you do cross-graded or cross-curricular applications for it. So for example, if I say yes, I've got science here, maybe I would like to add some mathematics. Okay, now what that's going to do, because I chose both subjects, it's going to actually let me choose from both sets of curricular outcomes. Okay, so I'm going to try to make questions for this test that are aligned to the science curriculum, but also aligned to the math and bring it together. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, now we're going to actually blueprint a section here. So step number 2. Now we're going to choose, here's our general outcomes that are available under your math and your science. Okay, so let's say that I would like to make this first section of my test on managing waste. Okay, and then I want, there's my specific outcomes now. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do knowledge of waste, of methods of waste management, and here, and then I would like to look at some understandings, responsible use. Okay, and go down to the bottom, and don't be afraid to scroll here, and then comparing those waste management. Okay, now up here I could also choose some the scale of graph and representation of data. I like that in terms of talking about waste. Maybe we can bring that in too. So I would like to also, now I have available to me all of those. Do you see that? So I'm going to do this one, statistical, and scale. Okay, just that for now, just this section. So, you know, and I mean, I can do a section with just one or two of these outcomes and then go on to the next section, another couple different outcomes and so on, which might be even more desirable in some instances. And then I can add my own instructions. So here I could say we focus on questions that have to do with everyday waste. So I'm just actually going to do that, right? Management in the home. And great. Okay, now I want to create a general outcome for this section. It's going to look at my curricular outcomes and create a rubric on that, on our general outcomes. So I'm going to say yes. For this rubric, I'd like it to be a 4-point rubric, and I want to look at 3 categories of the curriculum. Okay, now I'm going to blueprint my test. So I make multiple choice. Let's say I want a depth of knowledge. That's how deep of understanding you want. So this is very surface if it's level 1, surface level questions, and I want just 2 of those. I'll add them in here. Then I'll do multiple choice again, and I want depth of knowledge, a little bit deeper understanding, and right there. And now I'll have multiple choice. Let's balance it out with depth of knowledge 3, which is like really quite a thinker question, right? So depth of knowledge 3, you're going to have to do some analysis or evaluation and so on. So right there, and let's make some short answers so I can show you. And I want 2 of those, level 2 depth of knowledge, and I want 2 of those questions. Let's add that. See how it's making us a nice little blueprint down here, but you still have full control. You can delete any one of those that you made if you made a mistake. And so I'm going to add a long answer. That's going to be a deeper reflective question. And so I'm going to do just, I'll do one of those 2, and I'm going to save and close. Oh, maybe we'll do fill in the blank because I want to show you something here too. So if I choose a fill in the blank, we have embedded in here principles of test design. Okay, so if I choose 5 terms, it's only going to allow me to have 4 blanks because it should always be mismatched. And so I can choose less than 4, but I'm not going to have the same number of blanks as terms. All right, and I'm going to say that these are level 2. Those are probably going to be level 1 questions actually. So I'll do that, and I'm going to save and close. Okay, so now I've got all of my outcomes chosen. I've got my specific outcomes for this section of the test. Now I can always go and blueprint another section. So, you know, if I want to make this test however many sections, go ahead. And then I have here, I can still add on if I want to, but I can see my blueprint. All right, now step 3, choose the language and the output. So I'm going to choose English, and I'm going to say that this is waste management and statistics. Okay, and I'm going to go and generate the questions. Now, 2 places I can do that. One is here. I can also just go to this next tab and generate there. I'm just going to go here, generate. Now, it takes a few minutes here. While we're waiting, I just want to talk to you about how long would that take you? Because we know that best practice is really about all these things, right? Making up really good questions at different levels, and then mapping it all to your curricular outcomes and so on, and really understanding the depth of knowledge of each question. So that is time consuming. That's why we took best practices, put it in and built it in so that you can now do it in a really manageable amount of time. All right, so now I'm going to actually look at each question. Here they are. Okay, and I'm going to approve them. Okay, I like that one. Let's say, now this is, we do not have a select all on purpose. So the reason is we want you to actually have to vet each question, because otherwise, you know, AI, you cannot always trust it. Sometimes they are not good questions, and you want to make sure that these are things you covered in class, and that these questions are appropriate, in terms of, yeah, correct too. So there's lots of things to check there. All right, so I'm going to go through, I'm going to check each one. And then for these long or short answer questions, I want you to notice that there are rubrics, okay? Oh, I already approved this one, but I'm going to have to unapprove it just to make sure. And you just get that if you unapproved something. And I just want to make sure I make a rubric for this question. Now, I already have a general rubric for this section, which is great, because then I can take a look at where overall are my kids, right? On these categories, I look at how they did on the entire section in terms of the questions and the levels that they are, and then I can mark it on that general rubric. But I might also just want to have a quick little rubric to score each question. So I've got here, we've got a 1-point rubric, and I want to look at 2 categories for this one. And then say I want, it's asking it to do imagine compare. So I'm going to leave it blank because they might want to do a Venn diagram or something like that. Here it's look at the following 2 methods of ways to compose and compare them again. So I'm going to leave it blank, but I'm going to do a 1-point rubric, which is going to do strengths and stretches. And I'm going to leave it blank. There we go. We'll look 2 category, no, 1.2 categories. There we go. Okay, let's approve those questions then. And let's approve this one too. This one I'm going to do a 4-point rubric. And 2 categories. Okay. And there we go. Okay, I've got all my questions. Now, if I wanted more questions, I could get more questions. I just click that, it's going to do that. If this is a math test and you see that the numbers are kind of wonky here on the screen, they're not showing correctly, then just click that and that will take care of it. All right, now next step, I'm going to go get my questions, or like I'm going to generate my test with the questions. I've got the questions here, but I want to see them as a final result. So I'm going to go to that next tab. Okay, now one final way to organize. There's all my questions. I can get rid and delete again at any point. I see the rubrics that I chose for each one. This is just kind of a nice overall view. And then when I go to generate this test, I can generate it by type of question, so like all the multiple choice together and so on, or I can actually generate it by outcome. So I can put all of them related to this outcome together, all of them related to that outcome together. So I'm just going to leave it by type, and let's generate our test. Okay, now as it finishes up here, it's going to download to your drive the actual package that you get all of the things in. You're going to get the test, you're going to get all of the student outcome analysis, your rubrics, you're going to get an answer sheet and an answer key. I'll show you in just a moment. It's just about finished, and you can see along the top, just got to wait for that little yellow bar sometimes, and there it tells me that my package is ready. It also showed me this little download here, and I can see there's the zip file right there. But I have also enabled Google Drive, so I know that it went into my Google Drive as well. And so look for a little folder called Teacher Time Machine, and there it will be, and that's where you get it. Okay, let's take a look at what's in this folder. So here we are with the folder. There's my waste management and my complete package. So this is what a test looks like. Give it a moment to open. There it is. See, it's nicely formatted. It reduces eye fatigue by having this in ascending order, things like that. And yeah, that's the test. Here's the fill in the blank so you can see how we try to have it really as much as possible totally formatted for you, so you don't need to do a thing to it, except for maybe if you have some other kinds of questions that need source documents. You might want to add those at the end of your test. Okay, now here's your answer sheet, and then here's your answer key, and so on. Okay, now that is the test, but we also have the rubrics to go along with that. So this rubric is the general one, because I can see that, because it's just understanding and managing waste at home. And remember how we had said to make it relevant to home? So it went ahead and did that. So these are the I can statements at the different levels. If you want to, this is editable, just like the Microsoft Word document was. And in your Google Drive, they will be editable also, so you can just, bring them into Google Docs or whatever. And here I can change these words if those are not the words of my district, and so on. But you have a nicely formatted rubric right there on your I can statements that's totally 100% aligned to your curriculum, so that's pretty nice. Okay, and now I've got the strengths and stretches to find, and I can just quickly go down there like that. Okay, that was a pretty long question, and I'm just actually going to go drag that down a little bit more. There we go. And so here's the question, so I know, and here's the I cans. We asked it for 2 categories of the curriculum, and now I have strengths and the areas for growth. And so that is for that question, right? I'm going to save that and close it. And we have that all the way along for these rubrics. There's another one for question 8. We asked for the rubric, and there's another strengths and stretches one. There's the strengths, there's the areas for growth, and like I said, if the question was too big for the box, just pull that down right there, and no big deal, and save it. And now you've got your rubric ready to go. Okay, now this part actually lets you have extreme clarity for the student and gives you a way to, hand back results to the student and have them see, like, here's the questions on the left hand side, and here's the depth of knowledge level of those questions. Okay, sorry, this is the depth of knowledge, and this is the learning outcome. So this was all to learning outcome number 1, and now we've got the type of question and the depth of knowledge. So I can go down and go, oh, you are doing really good with the level 1 questions. But when we struggle, when we get down to the level 3 questions, and you have to actually apply those things, we need a little bit more help with that. We need a little more practice with that. And that is a way also that you can see as the teacher to drive your instruction forward, because you can use that information that you're gathering from your students to really say, okay, now I'll go into my lesson planner and I'll create lessons that have to do with that. Okay, so I'm going to save this. And then finally, it makes a blueprint. Now the blueprint shows you just like a really nice general, here's the outcomes, here's the multiple choice questions, how many multiple choice questions for each outcome, okay? Okay, so that is using our test designer, and down at the bottom here you see that there's a, do you want to add this resource to the community library? It's checked by default, so just remember, if you don't want it in there, uncheck that. Okay, that is our test designer. Thank you so much for taking a look. And I hope this saves you hours, but still gives you really great tests and test questions that are 100% aligned to your curriculum and that are mapped out for you in terms of your depth of knowledge so that you have real clarity about where your students are in their learning journey. Thanks so much. See you in the next video.